This dream is called the Two Vials. The time now for me here at the time of this recording is 3:23 in the morning on the 16th of February 2025. This has been the first dream I've had in a long time, and sort of just woke up and feel it's something I need to put out there, I need to share. It's quite a scary one. There's no time reference on this. This is imminent or whatever. I've had several dreams of a plague of this kind of level before, but and that's still never happened yet. And the context is that it's something that is still to come. Now, I can't remember the full details of the dream, but basically there were two steel vials, metal containers. One contained a more modern version of this kind of flu. I mean, it was a flu virus, but this was like unprecedented to anything that we've ever seen or experienced before. And then there was another one which was the original strain of it, and even the original strain of it was just awful. And in this dream, someone had accidentally opened the original strain. And in the dream, because the dream has to give me something to identify with, so I was in the dream, and I was with the people that opened the first vial. And within a day, it had been opened, and within one day, so many people were falling sick with this flu virus. And one of the key indicators that they'd caught it was that out of their nose was bloody mucus, and also like a green, like the blood had gone dark green as well, was coming down out of their nose. And this was within one day, and the amount of people that caught it within one day. And this was the weaker strain of the two vials. The second vial was it was awful. And the first vial was not as strong. And I'd noticed already in the dream that I myself hadn't actually got this flu. It hadn't affected me at all, even though I was around these people that were infected with it. But the whole sense of the dream was, this flu was a game changer. It, like the plague was in its day, but the speed and the ferocity of this flu, I mean, once you had it, the thing is, you were probably going to be dead within days. It was quite ferocious. And I was just left reeling that this was so ferocious. Its airborne speed at which it spread was you couldn't contain it. It was just too ferocious. Once it was airborne, it was it. It was everywhere. And the dream I just knew several things from the dream, that this was absolute end of days stuff. That a plague of this magnitude, it felt. Now, I'm not saying it is end of days stuff, but in the dream, it felt like this is end of days stuff. The reason why I say what I say is because, back in the Middle Ages, when the plague hit, before the Black Plague, the Black Death, people thought then that this was a end of the world judgment of God on the people, and so it felt very much like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean it is the end of the age or it's the end of time. One thing I've learned in these dreams is not to put even within the dream, your feelings and your assumptions can still be wrong in the context of the dream, but it gave a sense to the enormity of what is coming. Now, this is probably, out of any content that I've ever put out, probably the most fearful thing. But it reminds me of several other dreams that I'd had, and one dream was this kraken. This was a giant octopus with these 8 tentacles, and it was enormous and it was huge, and it came onto the UK. Now, this kraken, each tentacle represented something like one tentacle was economic woe. The next tentacle was plague. The next tentacle was something else. And so what it brought upon the nation was just devastating. I remember in a dream when I saw this kraken, it was so disgusting, this kraken, to look at. It physically made me feel physically ill just looking at it. Even in the dream, I wanted to retch. It was so disgusting. And I was in absolute terror of this thing. And yet in this place, I just heard the Holy Spirit saying to me, why are you afraid of the kraken? Don't be afraid of the kraken. Put your trust in me. And even though what the kraken had done was devastating, and I remember in that dream, a lot of lives had been taken, whether it be through hunger, whether it be through disease, whether it be through famine, all different things. And yet we're still not to fear it. And the dream had that similar kind of thing. So last night, again in the dream, I didn't really fear anything. This time, I just had that sense that God was with me, even if and to the point where I was like, well, if I die, I die, and God is with me. Even though I wasn't sick in the dream, I didn't get sick at all. I've had other dreams, again, where a sickness is coming, but I didn't get sick. Now, I don't know why I didn't get sick. I don't know if it was just a natural immunity or it was a Holy Spirit thing. I do remember in another dream when a plague was let loose, that if Christians really did like spiritual warfare, that somehow that it protected them from it. That's all I know. And I don't want to put any kind of theology into that. I don't want it to be like a faith thing, where like they've done the faith movement. Well, if you don't get healed, you haven't got enough faith, and therefore you'll die, and all that kind of nonsense. But I did see that actually prayer is a key, essential thing in resisting a plague or things that are coming. That's it, really. Just me rambling on there, but. That dream, I do believe, I always get the same sense. First, when I woke up, it was just like, oh, it's a dream. And then I always get no, that's not a dream. That's a warning dream. And I've never had a dream like that. And I know some people listening to this might be quite fearful of it. Do I know the timing of this? Is it imminent? I don't know. Is it even going to be a thing? I don't know. But this is not like COVID. COVID was nothing compared to this. This is a proper full-on plague, and there's no way you can contain this. There's no way of doing what they did before, where you quarantine areas and zones and stuff. This thing was was just so fast at its rate of spread that within, I was shocked within one day how many people had caught this flu. And so that's it, really. So I'm just putting that out there. I know it's quite a fearful thing, but some of the dreams that I've had are kind of apocalyptic and end days, and I have put a YouTube video up regarding like end time dreams that God has given me. I did a little video on that. This one definitely sits in that camp and in that zone. So something to pray about, something to consider. Now, again, this may seem all very what's the point, because of the ferocity of this sickness, and the damage that it would cause. I mean, the amount of people but would die for it would be colossal. And as a Christian, we've got to be very careful that if things like that do happen, and to die of this is awful, but you must remember this, that dying without Christ is worse than anything than any plague could ever do. This plague was quick. People died of it very quickly. But being in eternity and burning for all eternity in hell is a place that no one should go. And with respect, Christians, the idea of getting offended that bad things happen this side of eternity, it is just not good enough. We have to have a Christianity, and we have to have a faith that can take these kind of shakings, because what lies beyond death could either be far worse or far more beautiful than anything we could ever begin to imagine. Far worse for those that die without Christ. A flu of this magnitude, as great as it is nothing compared to eternity in hell. And so we need to be Christians that can deal with that and cope with that, and we need to be Christians that are sharing the message of Jesus and the message of gospel, and especially with especially in those times, people need to hear it. Just to finish with this, that back in the days of the Roman Empire, the church, the Christians were countercultural. When plagues had hit Rome before and spread throughout the lands, and they were nasty plagues, the Romans just stayed at home and didn't do anything for anybody else in case they caught it. But the Christians went out and helped people. And many Christians died during that hour as they helped the sick. But the thing is, it was noticed by the Romans, but also it was because the Christians knew their reward and their hope, and therefore that death did not bother them. I'm sure they didn't want to die, but they knew that it was better to do the right thing and knowing where they were going to go if they caught the plague than to do nothing. So that's the kind of Christianity that needs to be eschewed in the days ahead.